Today on the Jack Disney Show, I will be talking about the latest trailer for Doctor Strange 2 and how it is setting up the introduction of the X-Men into the MCU. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Jack Disney Show, the show where I talk about everything film, comics, and of course Disney. I'm your host Jack Disney, and I am so excited because Marvel decided to unleash the new trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and it looks incredible. But by far, the standout moment of the trailer is this right here. My boy is coming to the MCU. Now, this would, of course, have a lot of huge implications for the MCU, as it now means that all of the previous X-Men films are canon to the MCU. Now, there's the original 3 X-Men films, plus a prequel or 2, and then you got this time travel movie, and then a couple Wolverine spin-offs. So there's a bunch of movies here that are being brought in now, similar to how No Way Home brought in all of these Spider-Man films. Now, of course, in the Logan movie, we see the death of Professor X. This version of him is from after all those movies, but before the apocalyptic future in Logan, meaning that this is a Professor X who's experienced all the films and just is still alive. So I'm inclined to believe that this Stewart is actually going to be playing the version of Professor X from the cartoon series. Hear me out. There's an upcoming Disney Plus show called XMen 97, and this will be the first official X-Men show or movie within the MCU, as it does have the Marvel Studios logo. And since we are now entering the multiverse, anything can be canon to the MCU, as we saw in What If. So this show is, of course, a continuation of the 90s X-Men cartoon, which went on to inspire the X-Men movies, which inspired the MCU existing at all. So this is a very foundational show, and my idea is that this show exists in a very similar universe to the MCU. So within the X-Men cartoon universe, you also had Nick Fury assembling the Avengers to fight Loki, and then Ultron showing up, and then Thanos. So all of these events in the MCU also happened within the X-Men cartoon. And this would explain some similarities, such as Ms. Marvel's existence / Captain Marvel, or Wanda and Quicksilver being a part of the show. However, with Wanda and Quicksilver being a part of the show, this shows that certain characters had very different histories within this timeline. Instead of Wanda and Quicksilver joining the Avengers, they joined X-Factor in this show. However, they're still there for the key events such as Infinity War and whatnot. But whatever happened in this timeline that was different led to Quicksilver not being killed in Age of Ultron. So essentially, it's a timeline that echoes the MCU, but not quite the same. In this timeline, Wanda, of course, with Vision, had her 2 kids, which we see in WandaVision. However, something happened that caused the death of her kids, and it was somehow related back to mutants. And within the comics, this would make sense because there's this famous panel in the House of M comic, which was heavily referenced in WandaVision, where Wanda says no more mutants, and 99% of all mutants disappear. And a lot of people think that, oh, she's going to say mutants, like the reverse of that, and that's how the X-Men are going to come in. My theory is that she already said no more mutants. Within this X-Men cartoon timeline, Wanda was angry, and so she said no more mutants. And suddenly, all of reality changed. Mutants disappeared, except for Wanda and Pietro. But knowing that Wanda and Pietro are mutants, but then when she said no more mutants, she erased time and rewrote it to where now they're special power, they have special powers due to like the Infinity Stones and everything, and not their mutant genes. And she also rewrote reality to where now her parents weren't Magneto, but in fact, whoever this dude was in WandaVision. So what happened to all those mutants that she erased? Well, I think that they actually reappeared within the Fox X-Men timeline, the timeline of all of those movies that then had time travel and became multiple different reality. Fox X-Men multiverse, essentially. So just to recap, my theory is that the X-Men cartoon series is the original timeline, and at some point in that timeline, something happened to Wanda's kids, which made her angry with mutants and caused her to say no more mutants. Suddenly, the timeline shifted to where now, instead of the cartoon universe, it was the Fox X-Men universe, where the X-Men lived without the Avengers, and then the Avengers MCU universe, where all the events happened just without the X-Men, leading Wanda to join the Avengers, causing the death of her brother. And then when we get to WandaVision, she subconsciously remembers her kids from the X-Men cartoon timeline and somehow recreates them. And when she hears them at the end of that show, it's them calling from the true universe, that being the X-Men cartoon universe. And we are going to see all of this unfold at the end of this upcoming Doctor Strange film, as well as the upcoming X-Men 97 show, which will be continuing that cartoon universe, and I think will be the bridge between the cartoon universe and the creation of the MCU, thus making the cartoon universe and the Fox X-Men films all canon to the MCU and to any upcoming X-Men projects. I also think that all the upcoming X-Men projects will feature a cast very similar to the cartoon, with characters like Rogue, Gambit, Wolverine, with the implied idea being that that cartoon happened in the MCU. And of course, there's all sorts of little inconsistencies, but you could chalk all of that up to Cable and Bishop messing with the timeline, as they did often in that original X-Men cartoon. Anyways, that's my theory. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, as well as who your favorite member of the X-Men is. Personally, mine is of course Wolverine, and then following quickly behind are Beast, Nightcrawler, and Gambit. Of course, Cable as well. There's so many great X-Men, and I hope we see all of them in the upcoming MCU X-Men films. With that said, I'm Jack Disney, and I will see you all next time.